Morning, everybody. While I sort my notes out, here's a question for you to discuss with the person next to you. Do not pretend you can't remember it. Look at that. No matter how old you are, you still see that little face light up as you remember the first time you beat your parent at something and you knew they were trying. There we are. Thanks for that, Dickie, on Christians in Sport. So, my friends, normally I come to church on a bike, sometimes drive, depending on the. But I thought I'm trying to be a bit more present, trying to be a bit more aware of my surroundings, trying to be a bit more present in the moment, trying to pay more attention to what's going on. So I came on foot last week, and as I did, I'm walking, coming along, and I see the new flowers. They're coming into bloom. It's wonderful. I saw a swan with its little swanlings, little swaninis. What are they called? Cygnet. There we are. Well done. Points for you. Yeah. Cygnets. There we are. Saw them. And then I saw a dead fox. Then I walked a bit further and I saw a business that had gone under, and it was all boarded up, and there was graffiti everywhere all over this building. And then I saw a new housing estate. And then I walked down, there was this hedgerow, and it was full of litter. Then there was a man picking it up. Then I walked a bit further, and there was a sign on a bridge where a number of people had tried to take their own lives saying, "Talk to Samaritans." And then there was an advert for IVF. And I'm walking down the street trying to be aware, trying to be in the moment, trying to pay attention. And it was as though all of nature is singing the same song. There is death and there is resurrection. There is death and there is new life. There is a cycle that exists in nature and in our hearts and in our lives, and the story of Scripture that we're going to look at today. And I felt it. And we are in spring, my friends. Are we excited about this? Yes, we're excited about spring. We've reached spring. And I want us to look at the story of Easter over the next few weeks. And this is the first one in this series as we tell the story of Easter. And I want us to feel, as we were singing this morning, there's something about nature, there's something about creation that is singing this song of death and resurrection and death and new life. Now, last time I spoke, I was introducing the series that we just did on the Sermon on the Mount. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you were challenged by it. And if you remember, we were talking about Jesus, how he becomes a rabbi. And by that I mean Jesus is becoming a teacher. And he's chosen his disciples, people who are going to follow him right at the beginning of the story. And then if you read through the stories of Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, then the excitement builds. Jesus is telling more stories. He's giving more sermons. He's performing more miracles, and the crowds grow and they're following Jesus. And then there's this turning point in all of the Gospels, all the stories of Jesus, where it says Jesus turns his face towards Jerusalem. And that's where we are in the story. Jesus, with all of these people following him, all the excitement building, and Jesus turns his face. He's been spending most of his time out in the countryside and the backwater. And there's this moment where he turns his face towards the central points in the Jewish universe, Jerusalem, the geographical, societal, economic hub, the center of the Jewish universe. And Jesus drives straight to the heart of the matter. Maybe, my friends, you have left Jesus out on the countryside for too long, out in the backwater, telling his stories. But there is a moment where Jesus sets his heart for Jerusalem, sets his mind towards the center of the Jewish universe. Maybe, my friends, you need to accept that Jesus is heading for your heart this morning. Maybe you do. Jesus sets his heart and his mind for Jerusalem, and he comes in, and there's so much excitement. There's so much excitement because you've got to remember that all of these people have been following in Jesus for a number of years. They see him coming. They're like, this is the guy. This is the man who's going to change everything. He's going to set us free. This is Jesus coming to save the world. And we read the story. Jesus comes in on a donkey. And all the people are waving their flags and they're waving their palm leaves. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. There's all this excitement because Jesus is here and he's going to transform the world. And within a week, that same crowd see Jesus on a platform. Crucify him. Crucify him. Take him away. How do you deal with disappointment, my friends? How do you deal with disappointment? I got a job at a church once, and the people in the church, it was interesting, like the people who were involved in the worship and the music, they were like, yes, this guy's joined the church. He can like play guitar and he can transform the worship team. Then they heard me sing. There were groups that were like, oh, thank you. This guy can come in. He can raise loads of money for the thing I'm passionate about. But I'm a bad salesman. I can't do that. Some of them were like, oh, this guy can come in and he can go and visit everyone in all the sick and the people in hospital. And I just never really know what to say. I just disappointed a lot of people. And that was mostly on me. Not going to lie, of all of my faults. But also, it was a little bit on them. In the sense that a lot of people thought, oh, this guy's going to come along and he's going to match my agenda. Like, I want this to happen and this guy's going to make it, right? And you read in the story of Jesus coming into Jerusalem, people start getting angry at Jesus. And I think I know why. It's because they think Jesus is there to fulfill their agenda. They think he's coming into Jerusalem. We experience Jesus coming into our heart. We're like, oh, thank goodness Jesus is here. Now I can get whatever it is. Now I can get the dream job, the dream wife, the dream husband. Now, thank goodness Jesus has come into my heart. I can get all of these things. And then there's a moment where we realize that maybe Jesus isn't there to support my agenda. Maybe he's got his own kingdom, and I need to decide whether or not I'm going to follow that. We sing a line sometimes at church, like we sing some beautiful songs. There's that wonderful song, and it's a wonderful song, apart from the bit that's like, you're never gonna let me down. I don't like it because gonna is just awful, isn't it? Oh, it's such an American going to. I know it doesn't fit, but it just sounds better. Like, you're never going to let me. It doesn't fit. I know it doesn't fit, but it's just... But also, there's a bit as I sing it, I'm like, yeah, but sometimes Jesus lets me down, and that's not his fault. That is my fault. Yeah? That's because I'm expecting him to do things in my life that actually aren't part of his kingdom. And in a sense, looking back, sometimes I'm glad he let me down because I was praying for something and I'm glad I didn't get it. So Jesus enters into Jerusalem, and Matthew 26, I was reading it, and I'm reading Matthew 26, and we're going to do a whistle-stop tour of Matthew 26, and I want to see how many of you relate to Matthew 26. Before we do, have just in your mind's eye the last time you didn't get what you wanted. The last time there was bad traffic. The last time there was a time in your life that was really tough. The last time you didn't get the promotion. Just a time in your life you didn't get what you wanted. I want to see if you relate to any of this from Matthew 26. Okay, so we kick off in verse 6. It says, Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper. A woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. The disciples saw this. They were indignant. Why this waste? They asked. You should have sold it, given the money to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing for me. When I'm suffering, it is hard to see other people being blessed. When I'm going through a tough time, when I look in my hand and I don't see much, sometimes I look at others and I think, well, why have they got it all? In the words of Spike Milligan, God, all I ask is a chance to prove that money won't make me happy. You look at others. Why have they got all this? There's this kind of bitterness and jealousy as I look across at theirs, and Jesus says, no, she has done a beautiful thing for me. My friends, when you're going through a tough time, can you still choose to celebrate the success of others? Can you still choose to dance with those who dance? Can you still choose to say, I'm so happy for you, even when you feel that you have not got a lot to show? Where are we? We're verse 14. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, I like that they've put that in as though one of the 12, and then they're like, oh no, they might think it's me. The one called Judas Iscariot went to the chief priests and said, what are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you? So they counted about 30 pieces of silver. Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. Sometimes it's not going the way we want. At work or at home, in our family lives, in our friendship circles, and our choice is to try and control it. We seize and we manipulate and we force it. A control freak's a nasty phrase. Anyone here a control enthusiast? Right? And we struggle when it's not going the way we want. And you can sense Judas's disappointment. This isn't the Messiah I signed up for. This isn't how I thought it was going to go. And he takes matters into his own hands and he forces it. What will you give me? How many of us, when we are suffering, we just allow our moral standards to drop? What is your price? What is your price? It's all good when we're feeling good, when we're in a happy place. Oh, no, I would never do that. And then when we're hungry, when we're tired, when we're angry, when our spouse has annoyed us, what's your price? Do we allow our moral standards to drop? Verse 36. Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. This is Jesus, Son of God, sorrowful and troubled. And he said, my soul, this is Jesus speaking, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Can you hear the pain in Jesus' voice? Please just stay here. Just keep watch with me, please. Please, I'm on the point of death. I'm overwhelmed with pain. Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground. He prayed, Father, if it's possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but you will. And he returns to his best friends, his disciples, who he's poured his heart out to, and he finds them sleeping. When we're suffering, do we have any capacity for anyone else? When we're going through a tough time, someone comes to you and is like, I've just got this problem. And you're like, no, I can't deal with your problems. I don't want to hear it. Now, to be fair to the disciples, and we need to give them a fair hearing here, they have just had a big meal. Because if you read the story, right, they've just had Passover. Like, there's a lot of lamb. And also Passover, they have to have like 4 different glasses of red wine. They symbolize different bits of I mean, who wouldn't be a bit tired? Who wouldn't be? And then they've been on a long walk. I mean, there's lots of excuses. But Jesus is crying out, can someone just stay with me and be present with me in my pain? And they're like, do we ever do that? I know it's almost a bit comical. After another glass of wine, of course they fell asleep. But how often in my life am I like, oh, just give me another glass of wine and wake me up when it's over? I just want to bury my head in whatever your drug of choice to get through. Just, I don't want to know. As Green Day sung, wake me up when September ends. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to know it. Just give me another glass of wine. Come back when it's finished. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Then Jesus says, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let's go. Here comes my betrayer. And then in verse 50, the men stepped forward, seized Jesus and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him. When we don't get our own way, how many of us lash out? Our temper just gets shorter, our fuse and just one little thing tips us over the edge. We're straight in with that cutting remark. We're angry with our kids. We're quick to shout. We're quick to be mean. To give you a little bit of context here, I'm told that if you wanted to be a priest, like a high priest back in this day, it was very important that physically, I don't know why I'm pointing at myself here, but physically you had to be perfect. Sorry, Ian's just here. Physically you had to be perfect. I'm told that was important. You weren't allowed any physical defects. And this person's servant of the high priest, the suggestion is that this person's maybe next in line for the top job. This person has got a future lined up of where they're going to minister in the temple and honor God that way. And what does the disciple do? Takes out his sword and nicks his ear. Just takes a bit off his ear. He's not trying to kill him. He's trying to disqualify him from ministry. How many of us do that? We're not trying to kill him. We just want to take him down a peg or two. We just want to do a little bit of criticism, just a little snide remark, just enough to disqualify you from ministry, just enough so you don't get to go where you want to go, just enough so you can't fulfill your dreams, because I'm hurting, you're hurting me, and I just want to take a little bit of your ear off because I don't want you to end up going somewhere because you've hurt me. Jesus says, put your sword away. Put your sword away. As I read through all of this, I was reminded that this is why many of us give stuff up for Lent. Anyone given anything up for Lent ever? Yeah? Some of you are too tired to put your hand up because you haven't had chocolate in 30. You're over halfway through, guys. This is why for thousands of years Christians have spent the run-up to Easter denying themselves in one way or another. Some fast from chocolate, some fast from social media, but there's this process whereby you deny yourself. Why? Because one of the reasons is that when you deny yourself, you see what bubbles out. What is it like when I'm not in control of how much chocolate I eat, how much I scroll, where I deny myself? And if I'm honest as I do that, so often that what bubbles out it's not great. It's not great. I'm not good when I'm hungry. I'm not good when I don't get my own way. I'm not good. I start criticizing. I start putting my head in the sand. I start saying I don't want to hear about your problems. I start being jealous. I start criticizing. I start judging. There is a darkness that bubbles up inside of me that I need to confront. And I'd encourage you, my friends, as we approach Easter, try it. Try giving something up. Try denying yourself of something just long enough to see what bubbles up. See what's in your heart. As we read through this passage, we see time and again, there is a darkness that bubbles up. And we see a laziness, we see an anger, we see a jealousy. And Jesus takes it. He takes it. He's arrested and beaten and tortured and strung up on a tree, and he takes all my jealousy. And he takes all my apathy and all my hatred and all my pain and all my disappointments in him and all my disappointments in my life. And he takes them. My friends, as I was coming to church the other week, I realized I don't want another understanding of the cross. I need an experience of the cross. What I mean by that is so often we hear sermons, don't we? And they're interesting. But the cross is not another intellectual thing to understand. The cross is something to feel and live and experience. All of creation is chiming with this story. I don't want you to understand this story. I want you to live this story. The cross is something to be felt. Because in Romans 6:8, it says, if we have died with Christ, we believe that we also will live with him. Don't run from it. Don't run from that experience. So last week I tried to do some gardening. My gardening is like as good as that photo is. Like, it's really bad. But fortunately, I decided, because Charity was trying to do some like constructive gardening, where you try and grow stuff. And I was like, that's not really my vibe. Is there any destructive gardening I can do? So I took it upon myself, as I often do when there's jobs to be done. I find a little side quest. I was like, let's start hacking some of that down. Now, I don't really know what's good and what's bad, so my attitude is just get rid of all of it. So I'm hacking away at this tree thing. And after about an hour, like, I know you still got the scars on my arm. I was like, oh, Charity, have you seen what I've been doing in the garden? She was like, yes, it is now significantly worse. I was like, oh, that's a shame. But it's difficult when you're pruning, and it often looks worse, doesn't it? It's painful. It's painful to experience that. We don't want to experience the cross. I don't want to. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want to give something up. I don't want to confront the darkness in my soul. I don't want to die with Christ. I don't want to be pruned. But last week, those young women stood up here and they told us their story. And I was so moved as we heard those testimonies. In small group this week, we went round and we all shared our story. I thought it would be a good idea to kind of recreate it in our small group. So we all had a go, telling our story of how Jesus had changed our lives. And there was a pattern, because they were all very different. It was wonderful, beautiful variety. Both last week on the stage and in my small group this week, there was beautiful variety. But there was a common theme. That all of us, we had a moment where we decided we didn't want to drive our lives anymore. All of us had a moment where the anxiety got too much, the depression got too much, the addiction got too much, the hatred got too much, the jealousy got too much. And all of us had a moment where we said, God, I don't want to drive this anymore. You're going to have to drive it. All of us had gone through that pruning so much that we threw our hands up. And we're like, that's becoming a Christian, isn't it? Where you just turn to God and say, God, I don't want to drive this. I can't drive this anymore. You're going to have to drive it. And in that moment, we experience a grace. I'm not saying it's nice, but I'm saying if the testimonies taught me anything, that there are certain things you can only learn. You can only learn by going through the cross. There are certain things that you can only learn by dying. There are certain things you can only learn by pruning. There are certain things that you can only experience by going through a death of self. I read the stories of Jesus' death, and I see all around the cross, for people, stuff is falling apart. Many of us have been hurt by pastors or church leaders or religious institutions. And I was thinking, what must it have been like for the disciples to look up and see their rabbi die as they lose their faith in religious institutions? Many of us have lost our faith in political leaders. It's like, what must the crowd have felt looking up and seeing this innocent man killed, put up there by some corrupt trial? So they lose their faith in the political system. The Roman soldier sees something of the divine in Jesus and loses his faith in his job. Oh, maybe I'm not on the right side of history. As we read the cross, people are losing their faith. It's falling apart for so many. Mary sees her son die. She loses her faith in the family unit. King of the Jews, says the sign, as people lose their faith in national pride. Surely this man is the Son of God, as maybe they lose their faith in religious certainty. The cross, my friends, all of this bubbling darkness comes to a head. There's a moment where we can't ignore it anymore, where we can't ignore the hatred, the jealousy, the doubt, the anger. We can't ignore it anymore as it bubbles up at the cross. And we find ourselves standing and experiencing a God who dies with his arms outstretched, bleeding. And I want to look away. I want to look away because it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. I want to see a God riding in to save the day and take this innocent man from the cross. But Jesus hangs there and he shouts, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because some days, my friends, are so bad, even God doesn't believe in God anymore. And Jesus hangs there as all this bubbling darkness comes to focus on this one God man, and he takes it all, and I want to turn away. I don't want to experience the cross. Can't I just think about it? Can't I just intellectually understand it? But the more I want to look away, the more my gaze is drawn back to the dying God man, bleeding and suffering alone. And I realize that this is my God dying for me. I want to look away and I realize that this is love manifest. Myself, as I often hang on a cross between the paradise I long to inhabit and the dirt on which I'm forced to live on, as I experience that, and I myself shout, God, where have you forsaken me? Why have you left me? Why am I alone? As I do that, I look across and see Jesus saying the same thing. That as I bleed, I see a God who's there bleeding too. As I suffer, I look across and see a God who's suffering too. As I'm alone, I look across and see a God who's lonely too, because Hebrews says, we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize. Whatever you are suffering with this morning, invite God into your pain. You might find he's already there. The darkness that you feel is so pervasive. Invite God into that. You might find him hanging next to you. There is a God who bleeds. There is a God who suffers. And as we experience that, I realize I can't shun those who suffer. Because if God suffers, God is in those who are suffering. This week, if there's a God who bleeds, then God is to be found in those who bleed. If God is abandoned, maybe God is to be found in those who are abandoned. We take communion regularly here as a church. If you're Catholic, you believe that when you take the bread and wine, that the bread becomes physically the body of Jesus, and the wine physically becomes the blood of Jesus. Now, I believe, as we take it, I believe that we become the body of Jesus. That we become, that as we take the body and the wine, it becomes part of us. As we embody this love that Jesus has shown us. We embody it not just on a Sunday, but embody it around the dinner table with those difficult family members. We become the body of Christ as we go. See those friends who are suffering and choose to listen to their story rather than falling asleep. We become the body of Christ. We choose to stand with those who suffer. In those moments of sacrificial love, we offer ourselves as a host of the incarnation. The latest expression of a God who is endlessly emptying himself out into the universe, who fills all in all ways, as Ephesians tells us. This is the call, my friends, of the cross. To love even when we're hurting. To love even when it hurts us, even when we're suffering, even when we're experiencing darkness, to still love. I was playing chess the other day with my son. I don't know how much you know about chess, but I was winning by quite a lot. Because you can't let them win, guys. You can't let them win. Otherwise, they get caught. So, and it was, maybe I should have gone easy, but I was a bit one-sided. So, I got my queen out. For those of you who I got my queen out. I'd taken loads of his pieces. It was very one-sided. I'd taken his little horse one, that knight one, yeah. Taken his rook. And I reckoned I was 2 moves away from winning. I was so confident. I was sitting there all a bit smug, and I was like, maybe I should go easy on him. I was like, no, he's got to learn. Take another piece. There I am, just taking the pieces, just like, eye in the end game. 2 more moves, I reckon I've got him. Sitting there smug. And then my son plays a move that I did not see coming. Now, I wish I'd taken a photo of it, but it was similar to this one. He made a move that I didn't see coming. And he looked at me. He just went, checkmate, Dad. And the next few moments are a little bit of a blur. Because at first, almost condescendingly, I'm like, nice try. And then I looked at the board and was like, maybe it is. Then I looked a bit more and like, I think it actually is. And then I have never experienced a loss of confidence so much that I did in the next 2 minutes. So I'm there with I cannot explain to you how little I expected this to happen. I just did not see this coming at all. And all of my confidence, I'm head in hand staring at this board. Now, at that exact moment, our friends arrived. They're knocking on the door, and I am in no fit state to see anybody. I'm there, like, what has gone on? And the worst bit is that my son, who is 8, by the way, has danced off to go and see his friends. He didn't even celebrate. That was the worst bit. He didn't even care. Because clearly he'd seen what was going to happen for ages. I thought he was losing, but he was winning. I thought I was in control of all of this situation, but he knew exactly what was going to happen. There's a wonderful passage in Act 2, verse 23. Jesus was handed over to you by God's deliberate plan and foreknowledge, and you, with the help of wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to the cross. But God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. It's almost like Jesus appears, the incarnate God, and the powers of darkness just can't understand why. Like, what is this God-man doing? Surely God does not love these puny humans enough to become like them. The powers of darkness can't comprehend what love looks like. They can only comprehend evil, so they set to work putting him to death. Because there's God on earth. You take the opportunity. So they start working in Judas. They start working in the crowds. They start stirring up the hatred and the anger and the darkness and the forces of evil. It just looks like they're winning. All through holy, it just looks like they're winning. As they conspire to put Jesus to death on the cross. And the more you look at it, the more you see the power of darkness in its ascendancy. The more it looks like everything's going wrong. The more it looks like Satan and the powers of evil have got this game locked up and it's just a few more moves. But my friends, Easter is God's great checkmate move. Easter is that wonderful moment where what looked like defeat has been transformed into a glorious victory. As it says in Acts, but God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. Because what looks like defeat on a Friday is revealed as the greatest victory on Easter Sunday. Violence, my friends, is winning on the Friday, but healing wins on the Sunday. Judgment is winning on the Friday, but mercy gets the last word on the Sunday. Hatred is winning on Friday, but love triumphs on Sunday. Death is winning on Friday, but life is dancing out of the grave on Sunday. I'm not promising, my friends, the suffering of this present age will disappear overnight. It didn't 2,000 years ago, but I do know that no matter the darkness which I see, I am confident that there is a light which is more powerful. That there is a mercy more powerful than judgment. That there is a grace deeper than shame. That there is a life more powerful than death itself. So this Easter, experience the cross. Don't shy from it. Lean into it. It's not easy. It's painful. But you can bet on hope. You can bet on hope. It's hardwired into your soul that whatever darkness looks like on Friday, there is a life and a light the other side. There is an empty tomb. There is a life that is stronger than death. And there is a love that casts out all fear. Let us pray.